Stories of One Life, Episode 6, The Silence After the Storm. Part 1, The Quiet That Hurts. The storm ended in the middle of the night, not with a loud crash, not with a final shout of thunder. It just faded. One moment, rain was hitting the roof like angry fingers. The next moment, there was only silence. Daniel lay awake in his small apartment, staring at the ceiling. The room was dark, but his eyes were open, wide open. He had not slept much in the last few days. His body was tired, but his mind refused to rest. Too many thoughts, too many memories, too many questions. He slowly sat up in bed and listened. No cars, no voices, no wind, just the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. The world felt paused. Daniel stood up and walked to the window. The street below was wet and empty. Street lights reflected on the asphalt like broken mirrors. Everything looked calm now, but inside him, nothing was calm. 3 days ago, his life had changed. Not in one big dramatic moment, but in many small ones. Small words, small looks, small silences. And now he was here, alone in his apartment, with the storm behind him and the quiet in front of him. Sometimes silence is louder than noise. Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. He felt older than his 22 years. He went to the kitchen and poured himself a glass of water. He drank it slowly, like he was afraid the water might disappear if he moved too fast. His phone was on the table, screen dark. No new messages, no missed calls. He picked it up anyway. Nothing. He turned it over and let it rest face down. 3 days ago, his girlfriend Emily had walked out of his life. Not screaming, not crying, just quiet. They had been together for almost 2 years, not perfect, but real. They met in college. She studied psychology, he studied design. They used to talk for hours about dreams, about fears, about the future. But something had changed, slowly, like weather. Emily started coming home later. Daniel started asking more questions. She started answering less. Until one night, she stood in the doorway of their apartment with her bag in her hand and said, "I need space, Daniel." Not, "I don't love you." Not, "It's over forever." Just, "I need space." And then she left. No slam of the door, no tears on her face, just a tired look in her eyes. That look was what hurt the most. Daniel walked to the couch and sat down. He stared at the wall. There was a photo frame there, a picture of them at the beach last summer. Emily laughing, Daniel holding the camera, sunlight in their hair. He stood up and took the frame off the wall. He looked at it for a long time, then he turned it face down on the table. Not because he hated the memory, but because it was too heavy to look at right now. He went back to the window. The sky was getting lighter. Early morning. The storm had cleaned the air. Everything outside looked fresh. Inside, he felt empty. He thought about calling someone, his mom, his best friend, Jake, but he didn't. Not because he didn't want to talk, but because he didn't know what to say. How do you explain silence? How do you explain the space where love used to be? Daniel sat on the floor with his back against the couch. He closed his eyes, and memories came. Emily sitting on the kitchen counter swinging her legs. Emily brushing her teeth while talking to him. Emily falling asleep on his shoulder during movies. All those small things, gone. Not broken, not burned, just gone. He felt something warm in his eyes. He did not cry, not yet. He was in that strange place between holding on and letting go, between hope and truth. His phone buzzed, one short vibration. He opened his eyes and grabbed it fast. A message. From Jake. "Hey man, you okay? Haven't heard from you." Daniel stared at the screen. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. What should he write? "I'm fine. I'm not fine. She left. I don't know what to do." He typed, "I'm here, just tired." Then he stopped, deleted it, typed again. "Not really okay. Emily and I are on pause." 3 dots appeared. Jake was typing. Then, "Damn. I'm sorry, bro. Want to talk?" Daniel leaned his head back against the couch. He exhaled. "Maybe later. I just need to think." "I get it, but don't disappear, okay?" Daniel smiled a little. Jake always said things like that. Simple, honest. "I won't." He put the phone down. The room was quiet again, but now the silence felt different. Not empty, not peaceful, but full. Full of everything he had not said. Full of everything he was afraid to face. Daniel stood up and went to the bathroom. He looked at himself in the mirror. Red eyes, messy hair, a face that looked older than yesterday. "Get yourself together," he whispered, but he didn't really believe it. He took a shower, let the hot water run over his head, over his shoulders, over his back. The sound of water filled the space where thoughts used to scream. For a few minutes, he felt nothing. Just warmth, just sound, just now. After the shower, he put on a clean shirt and jeans. He looked around the apartment. Everything was still the same, but also not. Emily's mug was still on the shelf. Her sweater was still on the chair. Her shoes were still by the door. But she wasn't there. Objects without a person feel strange, like a story without a voice. Daniel picked up the sweater. It still smelled like her. He closed his eyes and held it to his face. And this time, he cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet tears. The kind that fall because your heart is too tired to hold them. After a few minutes, he let the sweater go. He put it back on the chair. He wiped his face. He sat down at the small table in the kitchen. The clock on the wall ticked, each second loud in the quiet room. Daniel stared at the clock. Time was moving, even if he felt stuck. That thought scared him. Because if time moves, that means change happens. And sometimes, change means losing. He looked at the door, at the place where Emily had stood 3 days ago. Bag in hand, eyes tired, voice calm. "I need space." He whispered the words again. Space. What does that even mean? Distance? Freedom? The beginning of the end? Or just a pause? Daniel didn't know. And that not knowing hurt more than any answer. He rested his head in his hands. The storm was over. The rain was gone. But the silence after the storm, that was the hardest part. because now there was nothing to hide behind. No noise, no distraction. Just him, and his thoughts, and the empty space where love used to live. Later that day, Daniel went outside, not because he wanted to, but because staying inside felt worse. The air was cool and clean after the storm. The sky was pale blue, like it had been washed. He walked slowly down the street, hands in his pockets. Every step felt heavy, not on his feet, on his chest. People passed him, a woman walking her dog, 2 kids riding bikes, an old man reading a newspaper on a bench. Life was moving, normal, too normal. Daniel felt like he was standing still while the world kept going without him. He turned the corner and reached the small park near his apartment. He and Emily used to come here on Sundays, coffee in hand, laughing about nothing. He sat on the same bench they used to sit on. The wood was still wet from the rain, cold. He didn't care. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, staring at the ground. Inside his head, the same questions played again and again. What did I do wrong? When did it start to change? Could I have stopped it? He remembered the last real fight they had. Not loud, not angry, just sad. Emily had said, "I feel like you're here, but not really with me." That sentence stayed with him, like a stone in his pocket, heavy. Daniel had answered, "I am here. I'm not going anywhere." But maybe that wasn't enough. Maybe being there is not the same as being present. He closed his eyes. He could see her face, not angry, just tired. That tired look again. A voice broke his thoughts. "Rough day?" Daniel opened his eyes. An older man was standing near the bench. Gray hair, simple jacket, kind eyes. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, something like that. The man sat down slowly at the other end of the bench. Didn't push, didn't ask too much, just sat. Silence, but not the painful kind. The man looked ahead at the trees. "You know," he said calmly, "after a storm, everything looks clean, but inside people, it's usually still messy." Daniel looked at him. "How did you know?" he asked. The man smiled a little. "Because I've lived long enough to see it many times." Daniel exhaled. "Feels like I'm stuck," he said. "Like everything moved on, but I didn't." The man nodded slowly. "That happens when something important leaves," he said. "Your body keeps breathing, but your heart doesn't know what to do yet." Daniel thought about that. "It feels empty," he said. "Too quiet." "Quiet can be good," he replied, "but only after you face what's hiding in it." Daniel didn't answer. The man stood up. "Don't be afraid of the silence," he said. "It's trying to teach you something." Then he walked away. Daniel stayed on the bench for a long time after that, thinking, not about Emily, not about the past, but about himself, who he was now, without her. That was the hardest question. In the evening, Daniel went back home. The apartment still felt strange, but this time, not as sharp. He turned on a small lamp. Warm light filled the room. He sat at the table and opened his laptop. He had a design project due next week. He stared at the blank screen. Nothing came. So he closed it. Instead, he took a notebook and a pen. He wrote at the top of the page, "What I'm afraid of." Then he stopped. The pen hovered. His hand shook a little. Slowly he wrote, "Being alone, not being enough, loving someone more than they love me, starting over." He read the list. His chest felt tight. Then he turned the page. He wrote another title, What I Still Want. After a long pause, he wrote, Peace, Real Connection, to feel understood, to understand myself. He leaned back in the chair. For the first time in days, he felt something new. Not happiness, not hope, but honesty. That night, Daniel didn't turn on the TV, didn't play music, didn't scroll his phone. He just sat in the quiet and listened to it, not running from it anymore. The silence after the storm was still there, but now it didn't feel like an enemy. It felt like a mirror. Part 3. The Choice to Move Forward. The next morning, Daniel woke up before his alarm. The room was quiet again, but this time the quiet felt different. Not heavy, not scary, just still. He sat up in bed and looked around. Same walls, same chair, same window. But inside him, something had shifted. Not a big change, just a small one, like the first crack of light under a door. He got up and made coffee. The smell filled the kitchen, warm, comforting. He stood by the window and watched the city wake up. A woman opening a shop, a man walking fast with a backpack, a bus stopping at the corner. Life was moving again, and for the first time since Emily left, Daniel didn't feel angry at it. He felt curious. He took his notebook from last night, read the lists again, what I'm afraid of, what I still want. He touched the second page, peace, connection, understanding. He whispered, I still want these. And that mattered. Later that day, his phone buzzed again. Jake. Coffee today? My treat. Daniel smiled. Yeah, I'd like that. They met at a small cafe downtown. Jake was already there, waving when he saw him. You look tired, Jake said. Daniel laughed quietly. Yeah, but not broken. Jake raised his eyebrows. That's a good sign. They sat down, coffee between them. Silence at first, but the good kind. Then Daniel spoke. She left, he said. Not angry, just tired. Said she needs space. Jake listened, didn't interrupt, didn't give fast advice, just listened. I think I forgot how to be present, Daniel said. I was there, but not really with her. Jake nodded slowly. That happens, he said, but it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're human. Daniel looked at his cup. I don't know what happens next. Jake smiled. None of us ever really do. That line stayed with him. After coffee, Daniel didn't go straight home. He walked. No music, no phone, just him and the city. He noticed things he hadn't in weeks. A street musician playing softly, a couple holding hands, a little girl laughing too loud. Life again. Not perfect, but alive. That evening, Daniel sat at his desk. He opened his laptop. The blank screen didn't scare him this time. He started working, slowly, one line, then another. Not because he felt inspired, but because he chose to move. And that was new. Later, he stood by the window again. The sky was orange and purple. Sunset. He thought about Emily, not with pain, not with anger, but with honesty. He still cared, but he also knew something now. You can love someone and still need to find yourself again. He whispered, This is my part of the story now. The silence after the storm was still there, but now it wasn't empty. It was full of space. Space to breathe, space to grow, space to become someone new. And for the first time since she left, Daniel wasn't afraid of that space. He welcomed it. Did you like this episode? If yes, subscribe and like the video to find out what happens next in Stories of One Life.